Northern Progressive Coalition, being a full text of speech by the Northern Progressive Coalition in endorsement of President Bola Tinubu and Vice President Kashim Shettima as the most dependable leaders to have uplifted the North rapidly in the last 65 years after independence. Preamble. Esteemed compatriots of Northern Nigeria, respected traditional rulers, eminent political leaders, distinguished representatives of civil society, women, all youth coalition, and the teeming masses whose voice echo in the heartbeat of our cherished region. The Northern Progressive Coalition, NPC, which is a formidable convergence of democratic forces across the 19 northern states of our beloved nation, Nigeria, brings you profound greetings. We convene today as international and active contributors in the destiny of our great people. People whose pride in their identity has remained unshakable. People whose dreams for progress have yearned for fulfillment and whose resilience in the face of adversity is unmatched. There are people who are not spectators in the matters of national development. Therefore, it is in this spirit of collective introspection and nationalism that we convene this historic gathering that is not only aimed at reflecting on the realities of northern Nigeria, but more importantly, to issue a solemn declaration of support, loyalty, and to endorse the leadership of President Bola Tinubu and Vice President Kashim Shettima. For decades, our region is known to be subjected to barrage of systemic underdevelopment, political tokenism, economic disenfranchisement, and infrastructural neglect, all of which are often depicted in manipulative narrative and sterile data that fail to capture the harshness of lived realities from Bauchi to Zamfara, from Taraba to Sokoto. However, despite this widespread disenchantment, a ray of hope, clear political intent, and visionary policies have broken through the clouds of expectation. This beacon of hope is embodied in Tinubu-Shettima administration, which is less than 2 years has initiated what can be called a socio-political renaissance in northern Nigeria. This purposeful recalibration of our national priorities now reflects strategic and empowerment of the North as a crucial pillar in Nigerian national architecture, as well as inclusion, justice, and economic pragmatism. Issues of development, the North and the rest of the country. In this important that we first examine, the obvious realities existing in the developmental differences which have plagued the northern Nigeria, or the northern region of Nigeria, for far too long. This discourse is one which believe most move beyond emotions and nostalgia, but instead of rest of history analysis, sufficient empirical evidence, and the undeniable trajectory, governmental choices with visible results over time. Historical imbalance in capital projects. Since Nigeria gained independence in 1960, the distribution of national resources have frequently been skewed towards southern and western regions of the country. Particularly on the development of infrastructure, the northern region has frequently been underrepresented in capital-intensive initiatives despite having large landmass, growing population, and strategic geopolitical significance. Also, while federal highways, educational institutions, electrical grid, and railway revitalization were all dispersed inequitably by succeeding administration, the North was left in a developmental void. Weaponization of insecurity, a very peculiar tragedy of northern Nigeria post-military era has been the weaponization of insecurity from one administration to the other. And it gets more intense subsequently, from the insurgents in the northeast to the banditry in the northwest and farmer-herder conflict in the north central. The story has been the same: exploitation of violence for political and economic gain, certain northern elites blinded by ethno-sectarian greed deliberately suppressed interventions that would have ameliorated the root causes of unrest. This created an endless loop of poverty, displacement, school dropout, and system stagnation, political marginalization, and appointment tokenism. While has often been used as a strategic voting bloc, it is very unfortunate to state that we have really been rewarded with a high-caliber political appointments that actually influenced national policy. When the room for appointment did arrive, our people were generally confined to ceremonial or secondary duties. Northern technocrats were excluded from influencing the nation's economic and diplomatic narrative because crucial industries like finance, oil and gas, ICT, foreign affairs, and defense were set aside for other regions, even when few were appointed to cover up the nepotism narratives. They were bullied into submission, leading to underperformances where they get replaced in no time. Collapse of agriculture and industry. The North used to be a major source of food for all of West Africa, base station for the leather and textile industry, and once the proud host of Granite Pyramid. However, these advantages were gradually eroded into history between 1960 and 2023. With the granite no longer a common sight, no real plans were established by successive administrators to invest in agricultural processing zones, mechanized farming, or to revive irrigation infrastructure. Meanwhile, the younger generation drifted aimlessly into urban centers without jobs, skills, or hope. Education and social services. For years now, education in northern Nigeria has been shaped by gross underfunding, low enrollment, cultural and systemic barriers. Before 2023, education in the north was in precarious state. The region accounted for over 66% of the country's estimated 10.5 million out-of-school children. The Almajiri system lacked oversight and integration into the formal learning, poverty, and traditional norms further suppressed school attendance, especially for girls and rural children. Infrastructural deficits, outdated curricula, and limited teachers' capacity added to the problem. In many rural areas, access to basic health care is still a pipe dream, while southern Nigeria developed health insurance policies, digital education ecosystem, and urban resilience frameworks. Northern Nigeria was left with donor-dependent program and unsuccessful policy experiments. It is in this context that we must appreciate what the Tinubu-Shettima Ticket has done in abolishing the long, deep structural imbalances which has become a historic disruption involving elite complicity. The Tinubu-Shettima has boldly helped to re-engineer the economic and developmental architecture of Nigeria to benefit all, especially the North. The gains of the Tinubu-Shettima tickets in the North so far. Let us now move beyond rhetoric to interrogate the achievements that the Tinubu-Shettima government has delivered in the northern Nigeria in just less than 3 years in office. These are not empty promises or paid media stunts that are meant to deceive the northern population. There are policies intervention that were intentionally planned for a long-time strategic political realignment, meant to change the course of history and deliberate infrastructural recalibration that are transforming all regions before our very eyes. These are not just records written on papers, they are evident for all to see. Highest number representation in federal appointments in history. For the fourth time in the history of Nigeria's democratic journey, Northern Progressive Coalition has observed that Northern leaders now occupy strategic portfolios that matters in defining diplomatic engagement, defense, and the nation's economic pulse. This has been evident from security to commerce, from oil and gas regulation to reforming the education. Many Northern technocrats and statesmen have been involved not just as attendees, but more as two contributors to the event. For the first time in Nigeria's democratic journey, Northern leaders occupy strategic portfolios that define the nation's economic pulse, defense, posture, and diplomatic engagement, from security to commerce, from oil regulation to education reform. Northern technocrats and statesmen have been called upon, not as tokens, but as co-architects of the Nigerian Renaissance. Groundbreaking oncology centers in the north. In the health sector, for the first phase of a national oncology initiative backed by the President Tinubu administration, the commissioning of an advanced oncology center at the Federal Teaching Hospital, Katsina, among 3 advanced oncology centers under National Cancer Care Expansion Policy, has become a life-saving revolution for decades. Cancer patients in the north have had to journey to Lagos, Ibadan, or Abuja for treatment. Today, we are happy to say that a world-class oncology treatment is now domiciled with the north. And this stands as a testament to the President Tinubu Shettima-led administration's sensitivity to equitable healthcare access for all citizens in every region. Educational improvement and student loan scheme. When you think of Asiwaju Bola Tinubu and education, you think of his historic establishment of the National Student Loan Program, which presently finances the tuition and upkeep of more than 396,000 Nigerian students. What many may not realize is that the majority of young Nigerians benefiting from the program are Nigerian students of northern extraction, who comprise more than 55% of the total beneficiary pool, and by extension, account for over 45 billion naira for the total of 77 billion disbursed so far by the National Education Loan Fund, NEL Fund. Although these challenges were inherited, President Tinubu's administration opted not for quick fixes, but systemic reform. One of the most visible shifts is in infrastructure investment. Over 120 learning centers have been established across all senatorial districts, many equipped with solar power, safe water system, and furniture, making a fundamental step towards functional learning environment. This partnership with UBEC has led to the revitalization and building of 101 Almajiri with new integrated Sangaya Education Center dotting parts of Bauchi, Niger, Kaduna, and Kano states. However, to coordinate these efforts, the administration further established the National Commission for Almajiri and Out-of-School Children Education. The commission has already developed the first draft of a national policy on Almajiri educational and inaugurated a technical working group, TWG, for strategic reform. The proposed Almajiri Health Center scheme introduced by the Federal Ministry of Health aims to provide health insurance to children enrolled into school, making education a path to wellness, not just literacy. At the heart of Tinubu's strategy are two landmarks initiatives, which are DOTS and nursery. DOTS focuses on data out of school children, teachers, training, and skill development, while nursery, National Education System Reform Initiative, drives structural transformation across curricular, learning outcomes, and school management. Removal of fuel subsidy, a painful but necessary sacrifice. While past administration were held hostage by the corruption-ridden fuel subsidy regime, acknowledging the decades-long rot in the oil and gas sector that is draining the country revenue and cowardly waiting for who to bear the cards, President Tinubu took the bold and unprecedented step to eliminate it without compromise. However, this further led to uncovering the cabals and syndicates that were illegally profiting from the subsidy scheme and importing adulterated fuel into the country. This singular act has already begun to unlock funds for local production, infrastructure, and real monetary federalism. Northerners are seeing the gains in increased capital allocations, being sent monthly, decentralized economic growth, and the end of endless fuel imports cartels who crippled the economy. Infrastructure resurgence in the north. Right now, under the leadership of Tinubu Shettima administration, critical road networks in the north are the needed attention to drive development and progress, to state among the railway projects and multiple road rehabilitation we have. The Abuja-Kaduna-Zaria-Kano Road project, which was originally awarded in 2017, but has now been revitalized with 740.79 billion in funding the completion already for 2026. 9th Mile Otukpo-Makurdi Road, another crucial route meant to connect Enugu, Makurdi, and Abuja, now benefiting from renewed funding for completion. Sokoto-Badagry Highway, 1,068-kilometer north-south link with a rail line in the median construction began in October 2024. Abuja-Lokoja-Benin Road, which is still undergoing dualization with concrete technology, was re-awarded in 2024 with a sum of 305 billion in funding. Bode Sadu Kaima Kosubosu Road, a 130-kilometer project in Kwara, funded by Bua Group, designed for long-term durability. The dredging of the River Niger around Lokoja is strategic to northern mobility, commerce, and agricultural expansion. When this administration made their intention known to the youth to the north, they didn't just make mere promises, they promised projects with budgetary backing and visible progress. Now, the Tinubu-Shettima ticket we voted for is staying true to the words with evidential results. New tax reform that favored agricultural regions. Evidently, the North, being a major food basket and informal economy hub in this nation, is benefiting massively from the strategic overhaul of Nigeria's tax architecture that was implemented by President Tinubu-led administration. From the administration tax incentives program for agro-processors, VAT exemptions for small-scale traders, and harmonized tax regimes, it is undeniable that these tax reforms are deliberately aimed at empowering the North's economic base in order to restore its lost glory. Youth and Women Empowerment Scheme. The Tinubu-Shettima administration has launched multiple empowerment programs under the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, which are particularly active in northern states to help victims of natural disasters and terrorism. While maintaining this program, MSME grants and skills acquisition scheme are actively reaching the grassroots in Sokoto, Niger, Kebbi, Taraba, and Yobe, additionally helping to revive the dignity among the most vulnerable. As we march forward, we call on all stakeholders, governors, lawmakers, traditional rulers, youth group, market women, farmers, religious leaders, and students to join us in spreading the gospel of renewed hope for the Northern Renaissance. Let us rise, let us speak, let us vote again in 2027, not just for a man, but for a future that we all have always dreamed of. President Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, Vice President Kashim Shettima, 2027, a vote for continuity, for progress, for the North, for Nigeria. God bless the Northern Nigeria. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Signed, Convener Usman Abdullahi.